When I was first learning how to program, one of the main roadblocks I used to often come up against was, how do I take these new concepts like HTML and CSS and apply it into a real world new project? So in this video, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take a project that will often get assigned to you as a full-time software developer and break it down from a beginner standpoint, which means that we're only going to cover HTML, CSS, at least in this video. Now, with that being said, let's get started. If you want to follow along exactly to what's on your screen, you should have VS Code installed plus the live preview extension. Not only that, if you want to get up to speed quicker without having to worry about downloading fonts or installing fonts or trying to figure out what are the branding colors that we're going to use for this project, you should download the project template that's found in the description. That way, you can just get directly into the code without having to worry about any of the extra stuff. So now with that being said, let's jump in. Now let's go to our design file and see what we're working with. Now, as we can see here, this area most likely will slot into a different part of our website somewhere. And so we're going to just say that this right here will be our team section. And then within our team section, we're going to have this component here, like this part here, which will be our title, and then our team content or team members, we could think of it as. And then from there, we can further subdivide our team members into an individual member, their photo, and then we have like information about them. So the image will be on the left, and then our information about that person will be on the right. And then within that information section, team member information section, we're going to have their name, title, a little brief about them, and their social links. And then even within the social links section, we can further break that down with a title and their social links buttons. And so that's going to be like our first step here. Anytime you see your design, you kind of want to break it down from just from a logical standpoint to see, okay, how are we going to build this from individual components? Okay, so now let's go back to our code. Okay. So we just have our little design down here also, but let's go to our preview. Let's go back to our body. So first thing first, like we said earlier, we're going to want to break it down into, since this is going to be like our section, why not use the section tag? Then, and from that, what was the next thing that we broke it down by? Broke it down by the title. So for that, let's use an H2 tag for that instead of an H1, because H1, we might use an H1 for, maybe like a title, maybe like the page title or the page brand name or something like that. And so for now, we're going to put our section title within its own H2 tag. And before we go a little bit further, let's actually start adding some type of identifiers to our elements that we're adding to the page. Team, because this will be our team section. And then from there, let's go back down to the H2 tag. What would the H2 tag be? Title is inside the section, the team section. Let's do team __ title. That way, when we target this element within our CSS, we can better understand where it comes from and what it is, and where it comes from and what is actually attached to, instead of just doing title. Because if we do that and we come over here, we can have multiple elements in our document that can be more than, that can also have that exact same title, exact same class attached to it. And so that's why we always want to attach the parent name at least to our children. Okay, so we got that. Now from here, what we can do is just simply just add our title there, and let's go back to our preview, and there we go. We have our section title in there. But as we can see, if we go back to the design file, we can see that our title is actually centered within the section instead of being off to the left here. So how would you go about centering your information? Well, what we're gonna do is add the team text align center to that. Now if we just save our document, save our CSS, and we come back over here and also save our HTML, now we should automatically update it and put it in the centered position and have it closely match with our provided document. Okay, next step. Now next step. What's the next step here? As we can see, our brand colors. Now we're gonna need to update our section title words with the different brand colors that we have. In order to do that, now how are we gonna do that? Well, one way to do that is to further subdivide our section title with a span tag. So if we just move it over here, oops. Yeah, so we're going to further sub that. So we're going to take our word and add it within the span tag. Okay. Now that we have that, now we need to actually change the color of each word. In order to do that, we're gonna do that with CSS. But before we do that, we're gonna need to add a class onto our span tag for each word, and we're gonna do the exact same naming convention that we've done for our team title. We're going to, since the span is a child of our team title, let's add our to the end of it. Then we're gonna do the exact same thing for our team title, our team word. Oops. Okay, save that. Then we can come back over to our CSS. And let's also just quickly add our class for our team. Now that we have access to our element within CSS, now we can just add the color here. Change the color. Okay. Now, but however, we need to access our variables up here within our root that was defined within our root the root selector. So to do that, in order to do that, we'll use the var. So allows us to evaluate. So as you can see right here from the information, it says evaluates the value of a custom variable. Yeah, the variable that we specify within the root section. And so, but now let's just quickly go back to our design file to see which color should be attached to which word, which brand color should be attached to each word. And so if we see here, we can see that our brand color, the primary color of 1, is attached to our darker color, and then our primary color, is primary color without the number attached to it, is associated to our, what's this, our golden team color. Okay, so from there we can just quickly, so our should be the darker color. So yeah. And then from here, we could just simply copy this instead of retyping it out, and remove the 1 from that. Save that. Go back to our preview. And as we can see, yes, our color has indeed changed for each of our individual parts of our title, individual words of our title. Now, from here, what we can do, like, okay, now let's go back to our design file and look and see what is the next thing we need to do. If we go back, as we can see here, if we go back to our preview, we can see that our team title needs to be a little bit bigger. It doesn't quite match the same size as the document file, as our mockup file, as our design file. And so for us to do that, we're going to need to change the font size. Now from here, we could add a font size directly within each of our within each of our word, which for the most part will do exactly what we're doing. So we changed our hour, and it has changed that. You know, we could take this, copy it into our team part, save it, come back over here, save it, and indeed it updates our team title to match our design file a little bit better. However, what we have done here is just duplicated our work. Duplicated our work here instead of, you know, and when you're becoming a little bit better, as you're becoming better and better, the one thing you want to do is not to duplicate yourself here, especially because it's going to be a little bit harder to change all the instances of this. Let's say that this is defined maybe way down in the page somewhere. If we update just this part and forget to update this also, then we will have, like we did earlier, maybe this is, I don't know, 24. As we can see, yeah, we'll still have 2 different ones. And so instead of breaking it up like that and having our font size defined in each of our word, what we're going to want to do is move this up to the parent of both of our words. So in this case, it would be our team title. Okay, we can do that. That way, if we change the size here, it should also update both of them at the same time. Great. And just set this back to 32. Since 32 does let's match closer to our InDesign. Now, sometimes when you get a design file, the font size may already be specified, but if you go back to our style guide, we can see right here that none of our text actually has any definitions there. And so for now, we're just gonna try to match our code to what the design file is like. And then when you hand over your finished work to like maybe your designer or somebody else to like review it, they will let you know like, oh, okay, wait a minute, that's a little bit too small, or that's a little bit too big, and can you change it from there? But for now, we'll just keep the font size to 32. So now if we go back to our preview, what else can we change from here? Well, we can see that our the weight of this right here is a little bit thinner than what we have. Well, let's go with that for now. Okay, so and there we go. What do we have done at this point? We have made our section. We defined the section for our design. We've also defined our title, the section title, and we also then we added our brand color for our specific word within our title. Okay, so now that we have our title part done, let's go back to our design and see what's the next step we can work on. So from here, as we can see, the next part is the team members section. So, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to go back to our HTML and add not that. So we're going to add a section. And just as we did prior, we're going to add a team members. Oh, let's add a double underscore there. Okay. And so from there, let's further subdivide this into a team member. So we're going to call this section. Put it as we'll just put the member in its own separate section, and then we'll do class team members member. Or instead of doing that, since it is a little bit of verbose at that point, we could just do team member. Okay, now like we did when we first started, let's further subdivide this section into our team profile and team info. Okay, and so for there, what we're going to do is just simply just say the profile is going to be represented by an image. And let's add the source as our asset image in, let's see, I think yeah, yep, there we go. And then from there we'll just add a class onto that. And again, since this is in the team member, like since its parent is the team member, we'll add it under the team member, and we'll just call it image. Or you could call it profile, but for now we'll just call it image. Okay, once we have that, let's go back and let's add the section part. Let's add the info section part. Now we can, call it section again. And you guessed it, the naming, we're gonna have to add our class name on there. So from there, we'll add our team member, and we'll just call that team member info. Okay. Now let's go back to our preview and just see if we have anything here. Oh, okay. So it looks like our assets, it's not linking our asset correctly. I wonder why it's not linking. Oh, it's because we added that front slash. That means go to our root directory and go from there. But we're not doing that. We're doing a relative link, not an absolute link. Okay, so there we go. So we have the image there. We can see that the image is way too big, but for now we're not. That's because we didn't add in our CSS yet to do our styling or like create a change in the size of our image. And so for now we're gonna just leave it as is until, but let's add all of our classes to our CSS file. And team member, oh, okay, we didn't add an underscore. Now we could, it's not like a if we just add one underscore like we did here, it's not going to break anything, but it's typically that you want to follow a somewhat convention to so that all of your class names are somewhat consistent. And so for there, anytime we're going to add another, like I would say, like a member to our class, we're going to just add it as a double underscore. So if we come over here, there we go, team member image. Now let's grab the same thing here. As you can see, I forgot to add a double underscore. Again, this is not required, but it just makes it consistent. Okay, now that we have that, now let's go to our, now we're gonna come back and restyle our image later, but for now, let's just kind of add all of our base information to our file. Now, we're gonna need to target, now we're gonna need to add our, the team member name. And so as you guess, we were just, now instead of just adding it directly, you know, as Brian in our file, as we can see, okay, shows up. That's not the final location that we're gonna add it, but we're just doing it for demonstration purposes. What we're gonna want to do is kind of, you're going to want to add this as a paragraph tag here, simply because the paragraph tag does come with some pre-existing styling to it, and so we can kind of just piggyback off that. And also it'll be a little bit more semantic, that, you know, the HTML will follow exactly with the information that we need to show. So instead of, you know, just adding it directly into the page, we're going to add it into a paragraph tag. Now, just same thing like the rest of our sections in our document, or really the rest of our elements in our document, this paragraph is also going to have a specific class attached to it. And then from here, as you guessed it, since this paragraph is a child of the team member info section, we're going to add all of that as the prefix, and then we'll just add it as name. Okay, and then from there we can come back to our design file and add the final team member name. Okay, well, okay, there we go. And then from there, we could just pretty much copy this to add as our title. So we're going to go here, change the title there, and the title in the CSS class. And then we're going to add the CEO and co. I guess probably. I think there's no space there, so we're gonna dash founder. Okay, let's just go to our document. Okay, so yes, okay, that looks good. Again, it's not styled correctly, but let's just add all of our information to our document first, then we can come back and style it later. Okay, so title, what else? I think it's like the brief, and let's see. So instead of me, just copying or typing all of this out, I'm gonna just grab that and stick it there. Great. Okay, what else? Okay, so there we go. We have the brief in place. Now the next part is the social, and as you guessed it, since this is contains multiple components within that, we can use a section for that. And as you guys said, also, and so for this one, instead of using a paragraph for this, we can use a span, because we're gonna have to run. We're gonna have to add the text in line with the social button. So, and that's typically what you will use a span for if you want to do anything that's within like the same line, or if you want content to be in the same line, like you got text plus some other element, you'll use a span for that. And so that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're just going to go back up to our this here and copy paste, and then we're just going to need to change our or for instead of creating a section, let's actually let's actually leave a section, because I was thinking about, hey, let's just put it as like a paragraph, because again, like I said, the paragraph already has built-in styling, and so for the most part, but since it is technically a section, let's keep it more semantic and keep it as a section. But what we're gonna do is still add our class to it. So team member info, call it social, and then from here, this will be social title, and the title will be let's see, follow at. Okay, great. And then from that, what we can do is make the button, but for now we're not going to define it as a button. We're going to just define it as an image. So we do let's see, where's the LinkedIn button right here will also be in our asset image folder. So let's do from here, we could just copy this, but we could just type it out and it should auto-complete it. There we go. And now to target, now we pretty much are going to want to target this specific image also. So guess what? This is also going to need a class on it. So it should be team member info social. We'll call this linked in. Add an ending tag for our image, and structure wise, that should be pretty much everything that we need. So let's just do a quick recap. We have for our section, for our team member section, we have a section for one team member. We have our profile picture. We have another section called team member info. And within that section, we have our team member info name, title, brief, social, and our social image. Okay, looks good. Now, if we go back to the preview, okay, so at this point, we have everything we need, at least structure-wise, in place. But let's go back to our CSS. Okay, so CSS-wise, we only have the info there. Let's continue to add all of the necessary things that we need to continue building out the CSS aspect. We have the team member name, team member info name. Let's add the title. add the brief. Let's add the social. Let's add the social title. And let's add the social, the LinkedIn social. Okay, there we go. Have all of our components defined. Now, if we look at our, if we look at the previewed HTML and compare that with the mockup, well, you can see right off the bat that it doesn't really follow at all our mockup. So the first thing we need to tackle is, let's tackle the image. Tackle the image size. So if we go to, if you find our members info, what we can do here is basically just set the, height of the image. So let's do max. Oops, that's not it. Max height. Let's set that as 120. Let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks a little bit closer to our mockup. Now that we have all of our section class names in our CSS file, now let's start to look and see what else can we do to change this, to change our preview and to match closer to our mockup. Okay, so first, as we can see, we did our image. So we got the image size correctly, which is good. Now we need to work on getting our team member section, I guess you could say positioned correctly. What we have is we have our team member profile picture and the info going down in a straight line. However, we need our team member profile picture to the left, and then we need the info to the right. So how are we going to do that? What we're going to do is go to our team member section, and we're going to start to move our information around. What we're going to do that is we're going to change the display of this information to flex. That way we can run this, so that way we can display it in a row. Then if we come back over here, there we go. If we restart and if we save it, it should automatically move our content over into the correct location. Now, what else can we do? So now that we have that positioned correctly, we can go back into our name. We can start to set the styling of our name, title, and the brief. Okay, just like, so now that we actually set all the CSS to all of those different locations, we should be able to now easily target that information of each of those locations. Let's set the font weight of the, not the info, but the info name. And we're going to set that as 500. Okay, so yeah, so we're going to set the font weight of it. Made it a little bit bolder, but however, now when we have that in place, let's actually change the team member name tag to an H3. Okay, so we added the font weight to our info name, so our team member name. Now let's go to the next. Let's move down to the next one. Let's see. The next one will be that we need to target is the title. So title is right here. So for this one, let me see, did I add the, make sure to add it. Okay, so yeah, the off-white one is the, so yeah, I totally forgot to add that color into the style guide. That's still, that should be in the style guide that you guys receive, but for now, I'm gonna just add it here. Let's see. Call this color to And that should be the title. So we can just do color var dash color 2. Just come over here. Yeah, resave it. Go to our mockup. Yep, there we go. It matches exact same color. Well, I think this one is a little bit darker, but that's fine for now. Okay, so let's move down to the brief. I think the brief also is not in the style guide, so I'm going to also add that here for now. Again, this will be in the, this should be in the that's actually not called, that's actually not spelled correctly. Primary color 3. Primary. Change this to primary, okay. And come to the brief. And this one is primary color 3. Yep. So come over here. Yep. There we go. The brief is changed to a more darker gray instead of black. Follow me should be the same, and it gets the exact same color. There we go, got the gray color. So there we go. We set pretty much all of our colors. Oh, well, we actually didn't set the color for our title. We missed that one. I'm trying to see. I think that one is the main brand color. Main brand color of 1. So let's go and grab that for the name. Yeah, there we go. I believe that also, yeah, the blue color for that also changed. So there we go. So now we have all of our colors set. But now if we go back to the spacing, see the spacing, yes, a little bit too much between all of our elements. So what we're going to want to do for that is we're going to want to start changing the padding around those. The padding or the margin, but we're actually going to use not the padding, we're actually going to use the margin, because the margin is the outside spacing of your element instead of like the inside spacing. So that's more appropriate for this demonstration. And so to do that, we can go through each one and add padding, margin 8, 0 for that. Let's see if that actually changed. Okay, so now that didn't change. For name, interesting that it didn't change. Okay, let's keep adding it to the other elements and see. Oh, okay, so yeah, it is. It's actually changing the padding of it. I guess it was just because the margin of these other page elements was taking in effect, and so that's why you wasn't seeing it. So let me just keep going, adding that. There we go. And it should also, but as you can see right now, we are duplicating our effort across a few of these elements. And so instead of doing that, what we can do is add all of that under one definition that will target multiple classes. And so to do that, we just take all of the classes that we want to target, add it together, and separate each one of them with a comment. And so we have, we added the name. So we can actually remove that. And for here, you kind of just specify it like you would any other normal CSS property. Let's see. Where is our... Okay, so we have the name, the title. We already added for the title, the brief. So we're going to move that down into the other definition. You could just add a... There should be a comment. Oh, a comma, not a comment, a comma. Let's see, name, title, brief. The social, I think the social should also have its padding or its margin changed. Okay, there we go. But we're not gonna see any changes until we do something with this LinkedIn image. But for now, let's see. That looks pretty good. Let's go back to our mockup. Okay, so yeah, the padding between our name, title, and brief look pretty good. Now we need to handle our LinkedIn image or button. For that, we're gonna need to change the height just like we did for our team member image. But we're not gonna keep it as a max height of 120 because that's just gonna be too big. Let's try 25 pixels and see how that looks. Okay. So it was on the other screen, so we couldn't necessarily see the change. Okay, there we go. So we are seeing it shrink. Okay. But what we need to do now is actually have our title centered in between our image. Now, there's a lot of ways to do that type of centering, but what we're gonna do is just also use our, we're gonna use Flex to do the centering for us. Okay, but as we can see, instead of it centering into the middle, it just moves it to the top. So what we're gonna have to do from here is add, is kind of change the, so yeah, change the flex items. Let's see, across in the cross axis within the line. So let's see how well that works. Okay, yeah, that looks a little bit better. Okay. But now we need some little bit of spacing between the items. Now with this, again, we can come down to our LinkedIn button and we can actually add a little bit of margin. We could add some margin to the left, maybe, 16 pixels. We could do that. However, the flex, like display engine has a built-in way to adding space between the elements. It says since the team member info social is it's kind of like a container, and each element within that is basically are saying the two elements that we have in there are the span, which would be the follow at, and the image. And so we could just add a space between that using flex. And okay, well, you just can't just add 8. You have to actually say 8 pixels, and there we go. Put a little bit of spacing there. You know what, let's see, there actually should be a little bit more padding between our brief and our follow at section. As you can see right here, there's quite a bit more padding. And so what we're going to want to do is add some padding on the top. Let's do 12 pixels and try that out. Okay, it did add it, but it also, oh, because, well, I added the padding to the LinkedIn button instead of the container, which will be here. Okay, let's actually, I think at this point, let me see, do we need more spacing? Let's see. Let's try 24 pixels and see how much space is that at. Let's remove our, because I believe it's adding margin from that section also. Yeah, okay, that's what it was doing. So yeah, if we were to, so basically if we go back to this, if we move this definition up before this, because if we, you know, so if we put it down here, this is overriding the properties up top. Because CSS executes your styling basically from top to bottom. So for us, let's actually move that. Let's move it all the way to the top. That way it doesn't have too much effect. So that way any element below can override what's above. And let's set that 24. That's a little bit too much. Let's try 12 again. Okay, yeah, that looks good. That looks a little bit better. Okay, so at this point it looks pretty good. Yeah, it looks pretty good. See what else we need to do. So we have the image. We have our team member image, name, title, brief, and follow what. At this point, we're probably gonna need to make this image an actual button instead of a actual image tag. And to do that, we could just change our, well, actually we can't just change it. We need to actually put this in a anchor tag. So basically just take this whole image definition and move it inside your anchor tag. And if we, okay, so yeah, I think you actually have to have, before it would actually show, I think you actually need to have a link to somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, okay. See, oftentimes I just don't put an anchor tag without adding something there. So let's just change that to linked LinkedIn. I believe that's LinkedIn. Let me, yeah, it's LinkedIn. Okay. And actually put this as LinkedIn. That really should be LinkedIn. No. Okay, great. If I save that again, save this, and now we're back to our regular styling. Okay, great. Now, next step after that. What do we need to do after this? If we can look and see, we actually need to change the background of that section to like a white color, because as we go back to our preview, there is nothing back there. So for us to do that, we just need to find our section and add background color. Let's do white for now. There we go. Nice white color. Now let's continue to focus on this, our actual cell or an actual team member section, if we can see, we actually need a little bit of buffer between the actual content and the actual edge of the section. And to do that, what we're going to do is, wait a minute, this is team members. It should be in the team member. Okay. Okay, now back to what I was saying. To add a little bit of spacing between that, we can use the padding instead of margin. Because if we would add margin, it would have put it on the outside edge instead of the inside edge. And so for this, if we do 16 pixels, there we go. Add a little bit of buffer. Now, if you go and add this as the margin, 16 pixels, we'll see that it actually indeed does not add any type of padding or spacing. Yeah, because the spacing is technically on the outside of our section and not in the inside. So if we just add this back and remove the margin, there we go. See, what else do we need? If we look a little bit closer, we can tell that there's actually the border color. It has a little of a color on the border, and the corners are actually rounded. So we actually gonna need to handle that. So to do that, let's actually have, instead of typing all of this out, we can just simply grab this here. And if we add it, you can't really tell here because we're going to need to zoom in. It's there, slightly there, but that would be a way to add a nice little border around it. Border radius. We actually add a little bit of shadow too, because if you could tell from go back to the mockup, there's a very subtle darkening around our section. So if we do that, if we actually turn that off, there you go. If you take a look at the edge, the bottom edge right here. If we add this back, save that, there we go. The border radius or border outline will come back. Okay, let's see. Are we missing anything from here? Seems, if we look at this, it seems like we just need a little bit of padding between the profile picture and the rest of the info. And again, back to that. To do that, since we are already defining our content in a as flex, we can just do the same thing we did earlier. We could just add we could define the gap, and let's try 16 pixels. See how well that looks. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Now, at this point, we're close to done. We're close to done because we've defined at least one of our team member section. And at this point, all we need to really do is just copy it so we can change out the name, title, brief, and that's it. So and that's exactly what we're going to do. Instead of typing all of this out, we're going to simply just copy this entire section. Go back here. Well, the next problem is that they're stacked going up and down, and we really need to go in this direction, like horizontally instead of like vertically. But before we get there, let's change out all of the associated information for this particular field. Okay, so that's our team member profile picture. Let's change out the name. What was the name again? Okay. Instead of me writing out, I just have it off to the side. Also, it's instead of CEO, I think it's COO. It's COO. Oh, actually, it's supposed to be a and sign there instead of a comma. Oh, okay. So, well, that's a change that needs to be made. Now, oftentimes we have something like this where it is a discrepancy between two things. What you would typically do is either go back to your designer and say, hey, I see that we have a little discrepancy in our design file. Should we keep it there or should we not? Should we leave it as is or change it? But for the most part, what we're going to do is just simply change it. No, we're going to simply leave it. Well, we're going to just leave the comma as is for now, because I think it's a little bit cleaner instead of changing it. So COO, there we go. Yeah, COO, comma, co-founder. And then we just need to change out the brief. Grab the brief. Okay. And that's pretty much it. We changed out name, title, brief, and we're going to just leave the the LinkedIn follow ad button as is, since we didn't necessarily change out the URL. It's just going to just go directly to the homepage. And actually, if we click this, it should take us. Okay, so well, I guess it doesn't necessarily. Yeah, I guess it doesn't necessarily allow you to go out from links from your preview. But if you load this up from from just Chrome, then the link should work. But okay, so now that we have that, now the next thing we need to work on is moving our team member over from this location all the way over here. And so to do that, what we're gonna do is go to our team members, and we pretty much can just copy the exact same thing that we have done down here, where we're going to use the display flex, okay, which pretty much puts us where we need. We're going to put some space in between. Okay, looks good. But let's actually add probably a little bit more. Let's try 32. Okay, that looks pretty much good. Now we just need to center this, or push this one over, because we know our title is centered, but now our team member information is not quite. It's not quite in the same position, not quite in the position that we're looking for. And now, in order to do that, we can come over here and just set each one to have a specific width. But a better approach to do that is to come over here to flex and define how each one should grow and move around. Which, if we do it as one is basically saying, hey, grow and shrink. We want to grow and shrink it to evenly distribute it between these two. And there we go. Now, if we go back to our design file, it pretty much matches our design file. I would say only thing we need to probably do is maybe tweak the font sizing. Yeah. Also, if we move in our screen, we can tell that, let's see, we can tell that our screen is not our example is not responsive, because in a more real world example, you will have this two team members kind of more move into a more of a stacked column approach, where it kind of goes like where we had this image, where we had this team member over here below our first team member. We would kind of have that in a more responsive example, but for this one, we're not doing any responsive programming. We just want to just keep this one as pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty straightforward to the point. Okay, so let's see what else. But that can be something that you can like try out. You know, if you want to add a little bit of responsiveness to your example here. But there we go. That's pretty much a way that I typically will go through and break down a process or break down a task using the processes that I normally use in a day-to-day business, you know, as a software developer. So let's see what else. What else can we do since we just here right now? Let's actually increase that team member info name. Let's actually play around with the size a little bit here. So let's do 6 pixels, 16 pixels. Let's see. It's a little bit bigger. Let's try 20. Oh, 120. There we go. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Let's see what else. Oh, okay, if we look at this text right here, we can see that ours is like a more of a bold. Same thing with this right here, our title. Both of those seems to be more bold font, while our mock-up is more of like a thinner weight. But before we do that, let's actually, cause I think we should have a little bit more spacing in between our rows. Yeah. To do that, let's add this and this here. Let's see how much that has affected. Okay, yeah. They put a little bit more space in between. And just to verify that, let's comment that out. Yep. Okay. I think we still need to tweak the font weight. Let's see. Do we have a lighter font weight? Let's see if we have one actually. 400. So the 400 is on the body, so that's already the weight that we have there. Let's see if a 300 will give us a little bit thinner. There we go. So the 300 actually gave us a little bit of a thinner look. It's a little bit closer to our mock-up. There we go. Now we probably should tweak our title also. Yeah, because our title is our section title seems a little bit thicker also. So let's go over here Team title. Let's set that to 400. Okay, let's just turn this, comment this out, just to verify. Yep. There we go. Yeah, it's a little bit thinner now. Okay. There we go. So that seems like we have done a pretty good job here. Okay, let me verify to see. How well the outlines. I think the outline, that's the only thing we're kind of missing here. Oh, the border. No. So it's, I think we're doing an outline. That one is a little bit thinner. I mean, that's a little bit darker. So let's actually play around and see if we can get that a little bit darker. Okay, so yeah, now that's a little bit too dark. That's definitely darker. Let's add this a little bit. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, yeah, that matches our design a little bit closer. Okay, yeah. Okay, there we go. So now if we just open our index file in Chrome, we should see that our design, for the most part, looks pretty close to our mock-up that we get assigned to us. Now, with that being said, this was a long, pretty much like a long video to get to this point. But that's typically how a normal task will be. You're gonna, do a little bit of trial and error. You're gonna have to take the design file that's assigned to you and kind of break it down into its different components, and you're gonna have to debug along the way. All of those things are very similar to what you will be doing in the real world. So, so I hope this video helped you to take the same concepts that you've been learning over, that you've been learning over and over. And I hope this gave you a little bit something to, I guess, to work on. Remember to go into the comment section. Let me know. Let me know if this helped you, or if it didn't help you, let me know also. So I can, in the future, make different videos that can be a little bit more, maybe focus on something a little bit different than what we did in this video. Maybe we want to go over a little bit of JavaScript. If that's the case, let me know. Until then, I hope this video helped you become a little bit better so that one day you too can become a full-time software developer.